How many of you have ever made a mistake that still haunts you? Pause, scans the crowd. Yeah, I see those hands. We've all been there. But listen, your past does not define you. The only thing keeping you stuck is the story you keep telling yourself about it. It's time to break free. It's time to stop punishing yourself and start owning your future. Because here's the truth. If you keep carrying guilt, you're robbing yourself of the life you're meant to live. So, who's ready to let go, take control, and move forward with unstoppable momentum? Holding on to past mistakes is like carrying a heavy weight on your back, one that slows you down, drains your energy, and keeps you from moving forward. Forgiving yourself is not about forgetting what happened or pretending the past doesn't matter. It's about breaking free from the chains of guilt, shame, and self-doubt so you can live the life you were meant to live. People often misunderstand forgiveness as something we give to others. But what about the forgiveness we owe to ourselves? The truth is, we are often our own harshest critics. We replay our failures, dwell on our regrets, and punish ourselves long after the event has passed. This self-imposed suffering does nothing but keep us stuck in the past, unable to fully embrace the present or create a compelling future. Forgiveness is not weakness. It does not mean letting yourself off the hook in a way that dismisses responsibility. Instead, it's about owning what happened, learning from it, and making a conscious decision to move forward without carrying unnecessary emotional baggage. The most successful people in the world are not those who have never made mistakes, but those who have learned to forgive themselves and use those lessons to fuel their growth. The question is, are you going to let your past define you, or are you going to use it as a stepping stone to something greater? One of the most powerful things you can do is shift your perspective on failure. When we make a mistake, our instinct is often to see it as proof that we are inadequate or incapable. But the reality is, failure is simply feedback. It's a signal telling us that something didn't work, that we need to adjust, improve, or try again. If you look at the most accomplished individuals, you'll see that they have all failed, often many times, before reaching success. What separates them from everyone else is not that they avoided failure, but that they refused to let failure define them. Instead of holding on to guilt, they extracted the lesson, applied it, and kept moving forward. Think about this. If you had a friend who constantly reminded you of every mistake you ever made, criticized you for every wrong decision, and made you feel unworthy of happiness, would you want to keep that friend in your life? Probably not. And yet many people do this to themselves every single day through their internal dialogue. They beat themselves up over past choices and allow negative self-talk to dictate their future. The key to self-forgiveness is to change that internal dialogue. Instead of saying, I can't believe I did that, say, I did that, I learned from it, and I am growing because of it. Instead of asking, why did I make that mistake? Ask, what can I take from this that will make me stronger and wiser? Embracing self-forgiveness does not mean erasing the past. It means making peace with it. You can't change what happened, but you can change how you carry it with you. Every single day you have a choice to remain stuck in guilt and regret, or to free yourself and move forward with purpose. Your energy is finite. Do you really want to spend it on something that no longer serves you? The most effective way to release yourself from past mistakes is to turn them into something positive. Use your experiences to help others, to improve yourself, and to build a future that excites you. When you do this, your past no longer becomes a burden. It becomes an asset. It's also important to recognize that forgiving yourself is a process. It doesn't happen overnight. There will be days when old feelings of regret creep back in, but when they do, remind yourself that you are evolving. The version of you who made that mistake is not the version of you standing here today. Growth is constant, and as long as you are learning, you are moving forward. The people who achieve extraordinary things in life are not those who never fall down, but those who refuse to stay down. Your mistakes do not define you. What you do next does. So let today be the day you choose to forgive yourself, not because you're excusing your past, but because your future deserves your full attention, your full energy, and your full commitment. The moment you make that decision, you'll feel lighter, stronger, and more in control. And from that place, you can create the life you truly want. The way you talk to yourself determines the course of your life. Whether you realize it or not, every single day you are telling yourself a story about who you are, what you're capable of, and what your future holds. That internal dialogue becomes the foundation of your reality. The problem is that most people allow their story to be shaped by past mistakes, failures, and regrets, rather than by their potential and possibilities. If you've been holding on to guilt or shame, you have likely built a narrative around it, one that says you are not good enough, that you always mess things up, or that you don't deserve happiness. And as long as you continue to tell yourself that story, you will live it. It's time to change the narrative. You are not the mistakes you've made. You are not the poor decisions of your past. You are the person who survived them, who learned from them, and who now has the power to create something better. But you cannot do that if you are constantly reinforcing a negative identity. If you keep repeating, "I always fail," then your mind will look for ways to prove that statement true. If you tell yourself, "I'm just not good enough," then you will act in ways that reinforce that belief. Your mind is incredibly powerful, and whatever you consistently tell yourself, you will begin to accept as truth. So what do? You rewrite the script. You start consciously choosing a new story, one that is rooted in growth, possibility, and strength. Instead of saying, "I always make bad decisions," shift to, "I am learning from every experience and becoming wiser every day." Instead of saying, "I'll never get over this," say, "This challenge is shaping me into a stronger version of myself." Words have power, and when you take control of your self-talk, you take control of your future. It's also important to recognize that rewriting your story is not about ignoring what happened. You don't need to pretend that your past mistakes didn't exist or that they didn't have consequences. What you do need to do is change how you interpret them. Instead of seeing them as proof of your inadequacy, start seeing them as necessary lessons that have prepared you for the next stage of your life. Every setback, every failure, every wrong turn, these are all part of your journey, not the end of it. The most successful and fulfilled people in the world are not those who have never failed, but those who refuse to be defined by their failures. To change your story, you must also change what you focus on. If you constantly replay the moments where you fell short, you will stay stuck in the emotions attached to those moments: shame, regret, frustration. But if you shift your focus to what you've learned, to how far you've come, and to the opportunities ahead, you will start to see a new version of yourself emerge. You will no longer be someone burdened by the past. You will be someone empowered by it. It's also essential to surround yourself with people who support the new story you are creating. If you are constantly around people who remind you of your failures or who reinforce your self-doubt, it will be much harder to break free from the old narrative. Seek out those who challenge you to grow, who encourage you to see the best in yourself, and who remind you of your potential rather than your past. The environment you place yourself in plays a massive role in shaping your mindset. So choose wisely. Ultimately, rewriting your story is about reclaiming your power. You cannot move forward in life if you are constantly looking back. Forgiving yourself is about acknowledging the past, but refusing to let it control your future. The moment you decide to change your self-talk, to shift your perspective, and to create a new narrative, everything changes. You will start to see new opportunities, feel new energy, and take new actions that align with the person you truly want to be. The past is unchangeable, but your future is unwritten. And the story you choose to tell yourself today will determine the path you walk tomorrow. Pain is inevitable, but suffering is a choice. Everyone experiences failure, setbacks, and moments they wish they could take back. But what separates those who rise from those who stay stuck is how they use that pain. Too many people allow their mistakes to define them. They replay the past over and over, convincing themselves that they are broken, unworthy, or incapable of change. They attach their identity to what went wrong rather than to what is still possible. But the truth is, your past does not have to be a prison. It can be a source of power if you learn how to use it. Pain has the potential to be one of the greatest teachers in life. Every mistake, every failure, and every disappointment carries a lesson. When you shift your mindset from regret to learning, everything changes. Instead of looking at your past and asking, "Why did this happen to me?" start asking, "What can I learn from this? How can this experience make me better?" That simple shift in perspective takes you out of a victim mindset and puts you in control. You stop seeing yourself as someone who is trapped by their past and start recognizing that every challenge has prepared you for something greater. One of the most powerful examples of this is seen in the lives of those who have faced extreme adversity. People who have overcome trauma, loss, or massive failure and used it to fuel a life of meaning and success. They didn't do this because they were special or because they had fewer struggles than anyone else. They did it because they made a decision to turn their pain into power rather than letting it keep them stuck. They refused to let their past be an anchor and instead turned it into a launch pad. This is not about ignoring the pain or pretending that what happened didn't matter. It's about choosing what you do with it. You can either allow your past mistakes to keep you frozen in place, afraid to take risks, or you can use them as fuel to become wiser, stronger, and more determined than ever. Every setback has something to teach you about yourself, about life, about what you truly want. But you have to be willing to extract those lessons rather than getting caught in a cycle of self-blame and regret. Think about the moments in your life that have shaped you the most. Were they the times when everything was easy and comfortable? Or were they the moments when you were challenged, when you faced difficulties that forced you to grow? Growth does not happen in comfort. Strength is not built in the absence of struggle. The most resilient people are those who have faced hardship and decided to rise anyway. That is a choice that is available to you right now. If you are carrying pain from the past, if you have been stuck in a loop of guilt or self-doubt, it's time to decide what you will do with it. Will you let it hold you back, or will you use it as a catalyst for transformation? You cannot change what has already happened, but you can change what it means to you. You can take control of your story and decide that your past is not a weight, it is a source of wisdom, of strength, and of purpose. Pain, when used correctly, becomes a driving force. It can give you clarity on what truly matters. It can push you to grow in ways you never would have otherwise. It can help you connect with others, inspire change, and become someone who rises beyond what they once thought possible. The moment you stop seeing your past as something that defines you and start seeing it as something that refines you, you reclaim your power. You stop waiting for permission to move forward and start creating the future you deserve. Forgiving yourself isn't just about letting go of the past, it's about setting a new standard for your future. Too often, people make the mistake of thinking that self-forgiveness is passive, that it simply means deciding to stop feeling bad. But true self-forgiveness requires action. It is a conscious commitment to becoming the kind of person who no longer repeats the same mistakes. It is about raising your standards, making better decisions, and stepping into the highest version of yourself. The problem is that most people don't make a real decision. They tell themselves they want to change, they want to grow, they want to move forward, but they don't truly commit. They remain stuck in old habits, repeating the same patterns, making the same excuses, and wondering why they feel like they aren't making progress. That's because change doesn't happen without a firm decision. A real decision means cutting off any other possibility. It means telling yourself, this is no longer who I am. This is no longer acceptable in my life. From this moment forward, I am stepping into a new standard. Think about any major breakthrough in your life. It probably didn't happen when you were just thinking about change. It happened when you finally decided that enough was enough. Maybe you reached a breaking point where you couldn't stand the pain anymore. Or maybe you got inspired by a vision of what was possible. But whatever it was, it required a firm decision. The same applies to forgiving yourself. You must decide that you will no longer allow guilt, shame, or regret to dictate your future. You must commit to becoming the person who learns from their past rather than being held hostage by it. Once you've made that decision, the next step is to take immediate action that aligns with your new standard. Action is the bridge between where you are and where you want to be. Too many people wait until they feel ready to make a change, but real change happens when you act in spite of fear, doubt, or uncertainty. If you want to forgive yourself and move forward, you need to prove to yourself that you are no longer the person who made that mistake. That means showing up differently in your daily life, making better choices, and taking responsibility for your future. One of the most effective ways to do this is to create rituals that reinforce your new identity. If you've been stuck in self-doubt or guilt, start your day with affirmations that remind you of your strength and resilience. If your past mistakes were caused by poor habits, replace them with new, empowering routines. If you hurt someone and it's weighing on your conscience, take action to make amends. Whatever it is, take a step that proves to yourself that you are serious about this new chapter in your life. Another key part of setting a new standard is surrounding yourself with people who reflect the mindset you want to adopt. If you are constantly around people who reinforce negative beliefs, who remind you of your past failures, or who encourage behaviors that don't align with your growth, it will be nearly impossible to break free. Seek out mentors, friends, and communities that uplift you, that challenge you to be better, and that align with the future you are building. Your environment plays a massive role in your transformation, so be intentional about who and what you surround yourself with. It's also important to recognize that this process is not about perfection. Setting a new standard doesn't mean you will never make mistakes again. It means that when you do, you will handle them differently. You will take ownership, learn from them, and keep moving forward instead of falling into the same cycle of guilt and regret. Growth is not about never failing. It's about failing forward. It's about constantly striving to be better than you were yesterday. At the end of the day, self-forgiveness is a gift you give to yourself, but it comes with responsibility. The responsibility to grow, to improve, and to honor the lessons of your past by applying them to your future. When you decide to commit to a new standard, you free yourself from the weight of past mistakes and step into a life of purpose, strength, and unlimited potential. The choice is yours. Will you continue to live in the past, or will you step up and claim the future that is waiting for you? Your past is a chapter, not the whole book. Too many people get stuck believing that because they made mistakes, because they failed, because they fell short, their entire life is defined by those moments. But that's only true if you allow it to be. Your past is just one part of your story. And you have the power to turn the page, to write something new, to decide that who you were is not who you have to be. The challenge is that most people don't realize how much they are holding on to. They carry guilt, regret, and shame like a heavy backpack, weighing them down, making every step forward harder than it needs to be. They wake up every day feeling burdened by what happened, replaying the same moments over and over in their minds, reinforcing the belief that they are stuck. But the reality is, the past only has power over you if you keep feeding it. The moment you decide to shift your focus, to stop giving energy to what you cannot change, you take back control of your life. Forgiveness is a decision, but it's also a process. You can decide right now that you are no longer going to be a prisoner of your past, but that doesn't mean your mind won't try to pull you back into old patterns. It takes intentional effort to rewire your thinking, to remind yourself daily that you are moving forward, that your past is a lesson, not a life sentence. One of the most powerful ways to do this is to actively create a vision for your future that excites you more than your past haunts you. When you have something bigger to focus on, when you are working towards something meaningful, the grip of regret starts to loosen. If you've ever tried to drive while looking in the rearview mirror the entire time, you know how dangerous it is. The same is true for life. You cannot move forward at full speed if you are constantly looking backward. The key is to acknowledge the past, take the lessons, and then put your focus on where you are going. Your energy is limited. Every moment you spend dwelling on regret is a moment you could be using to build something better. What if, instead of beating yourself up over what went wrong, you use that time and energy to create something right? The most successful people in the world are not those who never failed. They are the ones who refuse to let failure define them. They made mistakes, but they didn't stay in those mistakes. They learned, they adapted, and they kept going. The same is possible for you. No matter how many times you've fallen short, no matter how many bad decisions you've made, no matter how long you've been stuck in the same patterns, you have the power to change your story, but you must be willing to take your focus off the past and put it onto the future. One of the most practical ways to do this is through daily action. Forgiveness is not just a thought. It's a commitment to becoming the person you are capable of being. That means taking action every day that aligns with your future, not your past. If you want to be a better person, start showing up as that person now. If you want to break free from old habits, replace them with new ones. If you want to stop feeling stuck, take one small step forward today. Action is what creates momentum, and momentum is what breaks the cycle of regret. It's also important to surround yourself with reminders of who you are becoming. That could mean reading books that inspire growth, listening to people who uplift you, or even changing the environment around you. Your surroundings influence your mindset, and if you are constantly in a space that reminds you of your past mistakes, it will be harder to move forward. Make sure you are filling your mind and your life with things that push you forward, not pull you back. At the end of the day, the past is only as powerful as you allow it to be. It has no control over you unless you give it control. You are not your mistake. You are not your failures. You are the person who has survived them, who has learned from them, and who now has the opportunity to create something better. The question is, will you keep looking back, or will you finally allow yourself to move forward? The choice is yours. The only way to truly move forward in life is to take ownership of your future. Too many people get stuck waiting for the right moment, waiting to feel ready, waiting for something outside of them to change before they take action. But if you are waiting, you are not leading. If you are waiting, you are not in control. The truth is, nothing in your life will change until you decide to change it. You cannot undo the past, but you have full control over what happens next. When you take ownership of your future, you stop making excuses. You stop blaming your circumstances, your past mistakes, or the people around you. You stop telling yourself that you can't change because of what has happened before. Instead, you take full responsibility for what you do from this moment forward. This isn't about ignoring the challenges you've faced. It's about refusing to let them dictate your future. It's about recognizing that no matter what has happened, you still have the power to create something different. One of the most important shifts you can make is moving from a mindset of reacting to a mindset of creating. Most people live their lives in reaction mode. They react to their past. They react to their environment. They react to the emotions they feel in the moment. But those who create the lives they want don't wait to see what happens. They wake up each day with intention, they set goals, they take action, and they refuse to let their past determine what they believe is possible. Ownership means making a commitment to growth. If you want a better future, you have to be willing to grow into the person who can create it. That means developing new habits, learning new skills, and continuously challenging yourself to be better than you were yesterday. If you made mistakes in the past, use them as fuel to become stronger and wiser. If you've been stuck in patterns that don't serve you, break them by taking new actions today. Growth is not about perfection, it's about progress. It also means making decisions that align with the life you want. Every decision you make is either moving you closer to your vision or keeping you stuck in the past. Are you making choices based on fear, or are you making choices based on possibility? Are you allowing your past failures to keep you from taking risks, or are you using them as stepping stones to something greater? The only way to build a future you're proud of is to take action now. Bold, intentional action that reflects the life you want to live. Another key part of ownership is learning to control your focus. Whatever you focus on, you give power to. If you are constantly focusing on your past, on what went wrong, on what you wish you had done differently, then that is where your energy will go. But if you shift your focus to what is possible, to what you can create, to the opportunities ahead of you, then your energy will follow. The future is built by what you choose to focus on today. Taking ownership also means letting go of the need for external validation. If you are waiting for someone else to forgive you before you move forward, you are giving away your power. If you are waiting for permission to start over, you are holding yourself back. The only person who needs to give you permission to move forward is you. The only validation you need is the knowledge that you are taking steps toward becoming the best version of yourself. Ultimately, taking ownership of your future is about making a decision that you will not be defined by your past, a decision that you will take action despite fear or doubt, a decision that you will step into your power and create the life you deserve. The past is over, the future is unwritten, and the pen is in your hands. What will you choose to create?